isn't it? Oh.
If you happen to be walking along Main Road and you get as far as number 13, chances are the smell of cooking will waft by your nostrils. And that smell is coming from this unassuming little shop known as Greens. Greens are purveyors of pies and pasties to the populace, and we're going to find out how they make their pies and pasties and other assorted goodies. Come with me. Behind the scenes, the first person that we should meet is the man who owns the business, and that is Mr. Ron Green. Hi, Mr. Green.
How do you do, Mr. Gamble?
How long have you been making pies and pasties?
Well, this particular firm has been going since 1939. I personally have been in the business since 1960.
And your pies and pasties are entirely handmade, aren't they?
That's right, yes.
Which means they're different to the big companies. In what way?
Well, the big companies have a machine in which they put their raw ingredients, and from there they're all stamped out. Their formulas must remain constant, and they're all mass-produced. Whereas in our case, everything is laid out. Our formulas can be varied because we handle the pastry, the shells differently, and then they are hand-filled so that our quality is maintained by our own rigid standards.
What goes into a Greens pie?
Well, our pastry, our actual formulas are somewhat not exactly a secret, but they are closely kept. But the
why?
Well, there have been over the years a number of different ones that have wanted to try and copy them, but for this reason and obvious reasons, we've kept the actual formula itself to ourselves. But the pastry is just a short paste that we make, a formula that we've used exclusively right throughout the time that we've been in business. And then the filling for a pie is basically beef, minced beef, seasoned, cooked and thickened to the required consistency, then put in the shells and baked.
It must be a pretty good formula if people try to steal the secret.
Well, it's one that I don't think I've seen duplicated anywhere as yet.
Pies come in for a little bit of criticism every now and again. People say that they're not really very good for you. There's not a lot of quality in them.
This is a mistaken impression because the pie has been viewed by many as being just a cheap meal, whereas actually the meat content of a pie must contain 25% by weight, and this usually averages out in an average 6-ounce pie, which is the pie you would normally buy, works out at close to 2 ounces of meat. Not quite, almost 2 ounces of actual meat in the pie. And compare this with some other foods, and there's certainly the nutriment value there.
A hot pie is Australia's national dish, isn't it?
Well, it has become that, yes.
What goes into the pasties that you make?
Our pasties are vegetable, principally vegetable and meat and seasoning, and they're encased in a pastry casing and baked.
And you also make sausage rolls?
Yes, a limited number of these. They're not a big demand item, but that's simply just sausage meat encased in pastry.
And do you just sell your pies and pasties and sausage rolls at this shop, or are they sold at other places too?
Principally here. There are a few places throughout the city that do sell ours, but they're only just in a few strategic points.
Aha. Now, you haven't started baking yet, have you?
Not as yet.
Not as yet? Right, we're going to watch the process and see exactly what does go into a famous Greens pie.
Very good. Well, here they are laying out the tins ready to put their pastry on. This is the basis of the cases that form the underneath part of the pie. Now, we lay these out 4 wide, and we have a total of 8 dozen down the length of the table here. The reason we have it 4 wide, that's the width that we roll the pastry, and it also conforms to our cooking trays. And 8 dozen just fills 4 cooking trays, which is 2 oven loads.
I see. These fellows here who actually help you make the pies, what qualifications do they have?
Actually, in the actual pie manufacturing, it is not an apprenticeship trade because it's only a portion of pastry cooking. But these chaps that I have with me have been with me for a number of years and have learnt our particular system of making pies and pasties and have worked well into the system, and well, they know our routine and work accordingly.
I guess if you didn't have the pastry, the meat would fall all over the place, wouldn't it?
Well, this is right. At this point now, the chap here has kneaded down the pastry into a rough oblong shape, and he starts to put it through the machine for rolling it out. Certainly saves a lot of hand rolling.
Yeah. How long does it take to prepare the pastry before it's ready to be rolled?
The actual mixing of the pastry itself would take between 10 and 15 minutes. Then we usually let it stand for 15 or 20 minutes before we use it. The actual preparation to rolling then is only just a matter of a few seconds to knead it down, and it's ready to go through the machine.
How much pastry would you prepare in one day?
Well, this varies according to how busy we are, the type of weather, what the demand is, and the day of the week. But it can vary anywhere from about 160 pound to perhaps 300 to 400 pound.
How many pies would you get out of 160 pounds of pastry?
I'm afraid that's a very hard question to answer. We use the same pastry for our pasties too. That would do perhaps something like about roughly 40 dozen pies and 60 dozen pasties perhaps out of, well, that would be between 160 and 200 pound of paste.
How many people have you got working for you altogether?
I have 5 employed, plus myself, so 6 of us all together.
And you don't get paid, you just spend the profits?
Which are very few at the moment.
Oh, I suppose during the summer months you wouldn't sell many pies, would you?
This is the point. In the summer months it gets very quiet. In the winter time is our time. We get very busy then, and well, frankly, if you'd come along in the winter time, I don't think we would have had time to discuss with you the general process.
Well, we've got to the stage where the pastry has all been rolled.
Yes, we're ready now for the pastry to be put out over the tins.
Right.
Right there.
That was a quick sort of a process, wasn't it?
Yes, it's in fact, when we're really busy, it's even quicker than that. Get onto it at this point, just with another piece of pastry. We're stamping out these shells into the tins so that they mould into the shape of the tin. Our tins are all oval, which is unusual, but we find that they suit our purposes well. Most of the machine-made pies are either round or square because they suit the particular machines. But in this case, once they are stamped down, as you see the lass doing here, she is just going over the top with water. This makes the pastry sticky on the top, so that once the meat is in them and they are filled, well, then the tops are put on and they stick with just rolling. Now the chap here now has the meat. They're about to fill the cases now. We use a particular spoon there, which we've found holds just the right amount to fill the pie.
Oh, they look delicious already too. How long does it take to prepare the meat?
Well, the meat itself takes about an hour to cook, and it's cooked in the form of a stew and thickened to that consistency that you see there. Then this allows so that when the pies have cooked and cooled, they gel quite reasonably, and they don't run everywhere when you bite into them. Although when you first take them out of the oven, freshly cooked, sometimes they are a little runny then, because most of the pies that you buy are reheated, and ours, a lot are sold as they come out of the oven, just cooked.
And there's nothing nicer than a freshly cooked pie, is there?
This is true, although with a pie, I think a reheated pie can be very nice too. It's like something like a stew, which is usually very nice the next day too.
These are beef pies.
Yes.
Do you use any other sort of meat for pies?
No, we only use the one type of meat right through, pies and pasties. Some firms, they make a variety of pies, but we find this one line is all that we can handle when we're busy. If we had more than one line, well, then we would be in trouble when we were really busy. At this point is putting the tops on the pies, just a matter of unrolling the pastry. Now, where the housewife would normally go around those with a knife to cut them out, the type of tins we're using have an edge that is rolled up, so that by going over them with the rolling pin, as you'll see now, it is not only sticking the top to the base, but it is also cutting them out. The type of rolling pin we use, of course, is not the one that the housewife would use. It has ball bearings in the handle, which make it much easier to use. It accomplishes the same purpose. We roll one way and then the other way, and it cuts them out completely.
All of a sudden you've got a whole lot of pies ready for the oven, or almost ready.
Almost ready. It's just a matter of picking up the pieces of scrap pastry, putting the pies on the cooking grids that you see on the side of the table there, and they are practically ready for the oven.
I presume the scrap pastry would be used in the process again for some more pies.
That's
later.
right, yes. The scrap pastry is ideal for doing the base of the cases. Mm-hmm. The first line of pastry that you saw rolled out on the table. At this point they're putting a coating of milk on the top of them, which glazes them and gives them a nice brown crust when they're cooked. Without it, they look as though there's something missing.
And what's the other fellow doing?
The other fellow is just putting a little hole in them, so that as they cook, the steam that builds up has somewhere to escape. Otherwise they blow up like balloons, and they don't look nearly as well, yet it doesn't alter the actual taste of them. At this point they go into the oven, and in about 15 minutes we'll have piping hot pies come out ready to eat.
Which would seem to suggest it must be a pretty hot oven.
Yes, the oven is around about 425 to 450 degrees, and a specially designed pastry oven. They're an oven that's made and very heavily insulated, so that the cooking of pastries is done at a fast rate and accomplishes a nice crisp pastry. At this point now their pies are cooked and they've been taken out of the oven. They'll be left standing there for a few moments, just until the tins are cool enough for us to handle. We turn them out of there, then we put them onto these cooling grids that you see in the rack here, and they cool sufficiently to sell then. So while they're that hot, well, there's very few that can handle them. But then they're too hot to eat, of course, at that time, unless you've got a very tough palate.
Yes, and I don't think too many people would somehow.
Some do, but not very many.
Oh, look, they look delicious, and we've seen the whole process. It doesn't seem like 15 minutes ago that they went into the oven, but in fact it was.
That's right.
Mr. Green, it's been fascinating talking to you and watching you making the pies and everything. Thank you very much for showing us, and I guess all you hope now is that you can sell them to someone.
That's right. Well, it's been my pleasure, Peter.
No doubt you will sell them, because I think that Greens have quite a good reputation in Ballarat for making delicious pies.
Well, we usually have a pretty fair clientele at the counter there, and just have a look at it on a winter's day, and that speaks for itself.
Yes. Mr. Green, I said sort of during the segment that the pie is Australia's national dish, and we're going to finish off the segment with a song all about Australia's national dish. It's called Hot Pie and Tomato Sauce, and it's sung by a bloke called John Medlin.